Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ghost Reviews. Today's episode is going to be a little bit longer than last time because this time we are going to do a drawing of a fox. Now, usually I don't actually do animal drawings, especially on, you know, anything, because apparently if you like drawing animals, you're a furry. So this is going to be an interesting. I think watch for us all. I didn't rewatch this before recording it, so forgive me if I do seem a little bit out of it today. Okay, so the fox drawing actually is a gift for a friend of mine, and I really think that he is an adorable person. So he really likes foxes, but animals in general, I think they kind of have it. So over here, we see one of my older drawing styles. I mean, since recording this, I've already drawn a few better artworks, I would believe, especially when it comes to coloring in and precision, since my hands are quite jittery and I don't seem to be able to focus it. I use the lasso tool to help with the coloring in thing. Now, in general, it's not the best way. In general, it's not the best way to do the coloring at all because usually you can just color it in with your hands like you would do on paper, and you would quite often actually get better results than just these open spaces and overlapping and everything. And yes, right now it looks super messy, but trust me, the process will make it look better. Okay, so another thing that you can see is I have a few open windows so that I can go back to the pictures and see, hey, am I kind of following the correct color scheme and whatnot? And over to the side, you can see right below the color wheel that there are a bunch of different layers, unnamed layers, that would later just be kind of merged onto each other. And yeah, just create a nice flat color palette, I think. Yeah. So, what you can also see over here is me merging all the layers. I am using Krita. I didn't really know how to pronounce it. But anyway, it's a free drawing platform that even someone like me who has absolutely no I want to say someone who doesn't have any actual training or anything I can use this without having to struggle too much. Of course, you have to watch a YouTube tutorial on everything nowadays. And here you can see I've been struggling quite some time to get the correct layer. Over here, I also learned that when you're on a lasso, or when you have used a lasso tool, you have to click on the lasso tool again so that you can start coloring then on that layer. But I didn't always record every single step, and the recording software that I used is not available anymore, so I'm gonna have to change that up sometime as well. Hopefully, it will still kind of work out, but yeah, over here is what I would believe is the cleanup stage. And even while I was still drawing on Ibis Paint on my phone, the cleanup stage was one of the most important stages, right? You make sure that everything is inside the line art. You fill in any of those gaps that are there. It was still kind of, you can see here that I was kind of struggling to control my stylus, but it is getting better. And over there you can see my it's not really my signature, but it's so that people know where everything, if you look at the picture, you're like, oh, there's the handle. Let me go check it up. I saw a lot of other people do that, and my signature has changed quite a lot throughout the years. I mean, first it was just like a little logo that I put on there. Or no, first I just signed it like with an actual signature. Then I made a little logo. Then I made another little logo. And that little, the little ghost picture that you see in the corner of the screen, yeah, that was one of my signatures as well at a certain stage. But I don't know, for some people that kind of thing can work, but when you're drawing kind of in a hurry-ish type of thing, then most likely you will not need to do that. I mean, just signing your name and the date probably is also like the best thing to do. I think most people should actually stick to that, and you do it for yourself so that you know how much you have improved in a certain stage. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend adding a signature. Not necessarily something fancy, but just like writing your name or your Instagram handle or Twitter, DeviantArt. I don't know what you guys are on these days, so yeah, just remember to add that when you're doing a drawing. The date, not that important because you're gonna post it anyway on a certain date, so yeah. I'm getting off track again. Okay, but this is a super long process that it would have been easier and wouldn't have taken as much time if I had just like gone in with a brush or the stylus and colored it in with, without the lasso tool. Although the Udemy course that I'm following, the guy there, he said, "Hey, you use the lasso tool to do it easier," but it doesn't work. Plus he's using Adobe Photoshop. I think that's it. Yeah, and it looks very good. Don't get me wrong, but he also has like he's got a different setup than I do. Instead of having like a different drawing tablet that you link to your laptop, he has a tablet that you can draw on with your stylus immediate contact so that when you see something on a screen, you can immediately change. Kind of like fixing something on paper, just, it's the tablet screen. Like I said, that's exactly how I do it on Ibis Paint and is why I used Ibis Paint for so long. It's a very amazing platform for a beginner, especially, but I have been using it for like 3 or something years. Okay, there's the base color. Wonderful. Okay, and now we go on to the next layer of color, which is the black of the fox's legs. Funny story, guys. I actually didn't know that foxes have black legs. Like you see it in your mind, right? You can see it there, and then the next thing, the next thing you know, when you have to draw it or color it in, you're like, huh? What color are your legs? Yeah, it happens with the best of us, and even though I studied zoology, the amount of knowledge that I have on animals is limited and specific. Yeah. Over here you can see I'm just going in a bit with the line art. Especially like the eyes and the eyelashes and the eyebrows. Foxes, I don't believe, have eyebrows, now that I think about it, but sometimes you do tweak a few things in your artwork to kind of make it special to you and just you. Like you draw it this way, so that people can kind of recognize your artwork from very far off. And me, especially in animals, I would still have a human-like face, like the old Disney characters used to have. I really like the old Disney, like the 2D animation. That was the best period of Disney, I believe. Nowadays, like with Wish that came out a few I want to say months ago, it's it's not that good anymore. I really did like the princess theme at one point, like Frozen, the first Frozen. I watched it over and over and over again because it was like amazing. It was different. It just worked. And then when every single Disney movie after that had the exact same formula, except Strange World, I kind of lost it. I mean, I'd still watch Disney Pixar movies like Elemental. That was amazing. I watched it with my boyfriend the other day. But watching a purely Disney movie isn't that, good for me anymore. And this is coming from someone who loved the Zootropolis era and like Robin Hood and stuff like that. Animal centered movies. And Lion King 2, I watched that thing religiously. That, along with a Goofy movie. Yeah, it was a weird time. Okay. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there is actually a tool to help you draw straight ass lines on Krita. So when you look at the left corner of the screen, that's what I'm using right there. You see the brush? 2 squares to the right, 1 square down. That you can use to make completely flawless line art. I don't use it all the time. Like when I'm coloring, I don't use it. However, when two line arts like you see here with the ear, you use the line art to kind of just get a straight line or a line as straight as can be so that it looks okay, You don't want something that doesn't look perfect, especially on digital artworks, you have to try and get that perfection thing that you won't often get, especially when you are doing something traditionally. And I love traditional art, don't get me wrong. Traditional art is like one of the things that it gives me joy, because you can in real time draw something beautiful and you don't really have to worry too much if you make a mistake. Hey, that's line art for you, so yeah, you've got those kinds of things. With digital artwork, even though it is technically easier, to me it's kind of harder because you have a bunch of different layers, and there is no set amount that you must use or can use. You can use as many layers as you want to, and which also means you can have an infinite amount of possibilities for the end artwork. You could create or a one shadow character, a two shadow character, which I like to call it anyway. Two shadow character basically is just, instead of having one shadow layer, you have two shadow layers. Okay, and over here you can see on the right hand side, I am putting in a bunch of layers and I am labeling them. We have the flat colors, the shadow one that's on a multiply layer, shadow 2 also on a multiply layer. The ambience, you basically duplicate the layer that you're on, you color it in with another color on top of that, and also on a multiply layer. The soft light and hard light, soft light is on a overlay layer, and the hard light is on a linear dodge layer, but you can kind of switch out those two colors if you want to. And another thing that you can see here, the base layer, like the flats, if I would go back there, it is locked. You can click on both the lock icons if you are on Krita, and then every layer on top of that, you can, lock the alpha layer, or, click on that thing, which means that every layer that is on top of the bottom layer will kind of be clipped to the bottom layer. So you don't go over the lines, as you can see over here. I'm coloring in crazy, I am going over the lines, but in the picture you cannot see that. If you put the alpha layer off again, you can see how far you have gone overboard. Okay, and over there you can see me just drawing in a little arrow to signal which direction the light comes from. And unlike me, if you guys want to do great drawings, I would actually recommend that you guys do the light arrow before you put in the shadows. I was just being very, I don't know, I was feeling confident that day. It was for my boyfriend that I drew this, so I felt heavy confident, and I wanted yeah, you just kind of want to make gifts good, I think. And over there you can see, since I only paint dropped the inner layer of the circle, I'm going over it again. I think with a lot of paint, I want to say platforms, but a lot of apps that you use, you have to still color it in. Like, yeah, you can paint drop, but you still have to color in that line so that, doesn't give a bad whatever. But a few people, actually, I'm not sure which apps they use. You probably have to pay for them, that you don't have to go back in with the colors and whatnot. So, yeah. Ooh, oh wow, okay. um, so over here you can also see that I am going in with the nose and the whatnot and everything, and it already looks fairly good. I used a lot of references to help out with the shading, especially with the fur kind of aspect of it. And you kind of need a lot of references if you start out drawing, and even if you don't start out drawing, if you are kind of familiar with everything, references are still key. I'm not saying use it all the time, because that's wrong, and every single art teacher would be like, no, but you gotta learn the fundamentals, blah 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 blah. And yeah, you gotta learn the fundamentals, but don't just use the fundamentals. You're allowed to use references as often as you want to, because references, they help out a freaking lot. I have like 3 tabs open here of different foxes, to just give me a bit of a more feel to what do foxes look like? How are their faces formed? How's their fur? Things like that. And especially when you go in with shading and lighting, both of them, you have to kind of remember this is fur. It does cast a bunch of weird shadows, like I did over here. And those are kind of things that you learn with time. You cannot just say to yourself, hey, remember this, because if you're just starting out, that's going to be a lot to remember. Personally, I would probably recommend you guys just start out with a rough sketch. What we did in art class was to try and shade 3D forms. Like you've got a cone, you've got a cube, you've got a cylinder. I think we had a sphere as well in there. Like if you understand the 3D concept of the shapes, then you will be able to understand the 3D makeup of any of any drawing that you draw. Now, apologies for always jumping to and fro from the Spotify to the Krita, but I do listen to a lot of music when I draw, and I would actually recommend, if you are also an artist and you draw, to either listen to podcasts or listen to music. Don't watch movies. I'm sorry, guys, but you cannot do this. I know people say that they can multitask. No, you cannot. I did try that once where I tried drawing while I was watching a movie. It did not work out well because I paid too much attention to the movie and then the artwork looked like craps. Excuse my potty mouth, but unfortunately that is what happens. Yeah. So, in general, I think if you can start out just with like a single shading, it's already a first step. You don't have to, of course, you don't have to. People have a lot of things that they don't have to do, but it is interesting to see people try and add a little bit more. Another thing that I could also tell you guys is find a few artists whose art you enjoy and learn from them. Probably redo an art piece of them so that you can understand, okay, how do they do the lighting? How do they do the shadows? How do they draw a specific thing? Or especially like metal objects and eyes. I actually want you guys to focus on eyes, especially because they kind of liven up an art piece for me, especially. Yeah. So, what else do we got here? Me just putting in the second layer of shading. Okay, so I can probably tell you guys this, but there are, like I said, you have like 5 or 6 layers on top of your flat colors. The flat shading, that's just a normal thing that I usually do. It's not perfect, but it kind of gives that this is still a 2D character vibe for me, and for me that's still kind of something I want to cling to because my art has changed so much over the years. I feel like I reached a peak at one point, and now it just kind of doesn't look as good anymore. So then I decided, okay, let's add a little bit more. And a little bit more that I seem to add to especially these characters is the second shading layer. And there I'm labeling it. Okay. Is a second shading layer. The second shading layer basically just means that um, you put in a little bit more depth. You can also have a 3 or yeah, it's a 2-step layer. Instead of me making it more 3D and smudging it around a bit, you can actually add a darker color on top of that and just make it, a 3-shade layer. Okay, and the next layer that I believe that we're on is the overlay layer, the highlight number 1. In whichever direction the sun is coming, you can color it in usually with a softer brush, and you can clean up wherever the overlay is not needed. Now over here I'm just using a kind of like a sponge tool to give it a bit of texture. I should actually probably do that with my newer artworks as well. I do like the texture brushes. I took one whole day just going through all the brushes they have on Krita to decide which brushes I would use, which brushes I would like, and all of that. I think that is a pretty good idea for people to do, to just familiarize yourself with the app that you're using, go through everything. You don't have to draw anything, just kind of draw a circle and put in a bunch of flat colors, like a bunch of circles actually, and decide which brushes or set of brushes do you use? Would you use it often? What happens when? Blah blah blah. Just familiarize yourself. So if I could recommend anything, it's definitely familiarize yourself. Another step over here, I believe, is the line art. Now, excuse all the emails. So the line art, there are actually like two different ways to do it. The first one is to use like a reddish brown color from the beginning and just click on multiply so it blends in with the colors and the background. Or you can duplicate the layer and kind of put another color on top of that, decrease the opacity so it kind of blends, but you can still kind of make out this is a dark color and whatnot. Now, this is something that I probably wouldn't do in future pieces, but I do erase the line art that is around, especially black objects like the pupils, like the ears, the nose, the legs, the eyebrows. Apologies. Yeah. So that's just kind of a few hacks that I've tried out that kind of works. You guys don't have to do it. That's just something special to me. And I think I also played around with the um yeah, I had two copies of the line art. The one still had the black. I think it was on the shadow layer that I erased one layer of line art to kind of give it a bit more depth. It still looked like pretty amazing, but it's a lot of work. Like someone like Lavender Art, she wouldn't do that. She just kind of puts red line art on, especially the skin. And yeah, if that's something you'd rather do, then by all means go ahead. Yeah, it's all up to you basically. So, what else can I tell you guys other than this is me drawing a fox? This is probably the longest video that I have made of me drawing an actual character. Yeah, I had to like speed this thing up way more because people cannot draw that fast, especially not me. If you're focusing, sure you can draw fast, but you cannot draw that fast, you know. Um oh, and then of course there is the highlights in the eye. I always draw in the eye highlight for some reason. You don't have to do that. You can just kind of pick a brush and add something or don't, but yeah, especially here, I am adding a bit of highlight to the eye because I kind of like that feeling. It gives a bit more life to the character, although I have seen, especially people drawing anime girls, they go into way more detail, like soft brush all the way, and it looks perfect. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not an anime girl artist. I am a cutesy kind of artist. I've got a lot of anime influence, but the first ever characters that I have drawn were VeggieTales, and then they moved on to Star versus the Forces of Evil, and it kind of just happened. So, yeah. I think we are kind of nearing an end here. I'm just fixing up a few stuff. And a few things that I also do realize is that your laptop and your cell phone do not have the same screen types. That's horrible, isn't it? Oh, and here I'm just kind of tweaking with background a bit. So if you are like me, you do it on your laptop and then you post it on your phone, then yeah, you can go ahead. Me and Spotify. Okay, no, that is it for today. And this is how it came out. I really, really like drawing this character, especially like doing a bit of more background. Yeah, a bit more detail in the background. It's still very simplistic and it's monochrome. I really do love the monochrome feel that they have, especially with these characters. But I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye!